static display over the weekend.
Yes.
But now, takeoff clearance given for Captain Emeli Vähäsoirinki of the Finnish Air Force with the Hawk Mark 66. Be back at our valley in the late 70s, couldn't we, with a Hawk looking like this?
Yeah, very reminiscent of what we used to call the Raspberry Ripple colour scheme. For all of support commanders, it was then aircraft, all of training aircraft, so from the Hawk, the Jet Provost, the very first colour scheme of the Tucana, the Domini, and other training aircraft in the Air Force at the time. Although ultimately they were all painted black, because black is a much higher visibility colour scheme than what we see here in front of us.
Yes, this is actually the Swiss Air Force colour scheme, which is still on these aircraft. One difference from the normal Finnish Hawk displays, whether solo or team, is that these ex-Swiss ones don't carry smoke-generating pods, but nonetheless, this is a very, very attractive display.
Using all four axes of the flight control system in order to keep the aircraft level at about 300 feet.
After that, it was into a Cuban 8. And pulling up now for a manoeuvre that he described as a quarter of the St. John's Arms. Up into the vertical. And pulling through what we would describe as a quarter cloverleaf. They'll throw in another aileron roll, going away from us. What we would often refer to as the B-axis, that's the axis at 90 degrees to the main runway, which provides the line for the A-axis.
Yes, absolutely. The A-axis runs parallel to the runway or parallel to the crowd line, happens to be the runway in this instance, with most aircraft then exiting on the 45 degree to reposition either via a derry turn or a wing over.
And it's a derry turn that's coming up now out of another half Cuban 8, so rolling one way to turn the other. So named after the late great de Havilland test pilot, John Derry. And another derry turn on the level, being used there, just as Mark said, as a repositioning manoeuvre before Emeli comes back in for an inverted pass, incorporating an aileron roll back to the inverted. Somewhat on its side?
Yes, probably 20 to 30 degrees offset from the vertical. It gives a very good topside view of the aircraft.
And now for a reverse version of the half Cuban 8 manoeuvre we saw earlier, which incorporates a roll in the vertical and pulling inverted over the top. The Finns gained their first jet experience when they joined the Finnish Air Force on the Hawk in the initial phase of advanced training. From that into the leading fighter phase with tactical training in the air-to-air and air-to-ground roles before they hopefully progress on to Finland's frontline fighter, the Fa-18 Hornet. And the armament training can see the use of a 30mm Aiden gun in the under-fuselage pod, practice bombs, they can carry a couple of infrared guided air-to-air missiles on the wing pylons, and they can perform a limited air-to-air active role against suitable targets. Another secondary task has been air sampling with underwing pods, for example in the wake of the Icelandic ash cloud in 2010.
to a predetermined gate height and gate speed. The gate height is the minimum height required to conduct the rest of the manoeuvre in the vertical, and the gate speed is the maximum speed with which that can be completed.
As the downward 45 line rolling erect. And he'll do another one of the reverse half Cubans in the other direction to come back down the line.
Something worth remembering is the Hawk is a very, very small aircraft. Whilst it might look like it's not a tight display, he's actually topping out at not much more than 2,500 feet there.
And the air brake coming out now as he comes towards the end of his display with a wing rock. We'll see Emily turning away from the display line, putting in a barrel roll, and there, as he goes through it, down comes the undercarriage. Important to remember, this is a first-generation Hawk, rather like the Mark 1s used by the Red Arrows, and the Red Arrows Hawks and Finland's Hawks, now the only first-generation Hawks remaining in service anywhere in Europe.
Yes, but the distinct advantage of these ones over what we still operate was the avionics upgrade in 2011 to bring them up to full glass cockpit capabilities now.
And as he comes into land, I'd just like to remember someone who was a well-known part of the Air Tattoo organisation, up to and including last year from Finland, Perttu Karivalo. He really was Mr. Aviation in Finland, writer, photographer, historian, airshow flying display director, airshow organiser, and so much more. He was one of our deputy flying display directors here at RIAT in recent seasons. Very sadly, Perttu passed away last year. He was the most marvellous chap. He'll be very, very sorely missed around the whole of the European airshow circuit, as well as here at RIAT. And it's to Perttu Karivalo that our thoughts turn as the Finnish Air Force Hawk Mark 66 rolls out in the hands of Captain Emily Vahasoirinki.